Hi, welcome to this video, the UBC Hope Faculty Introduction to the Sauder School of Business. So let's kind of dive into it real quick. We got a lot to cover. So hi, first of all, my name is Bethanea Chou. I'm a second year student at the UBC Sauder School of Business. And why did I choose Sauder? Well, first of all, I realized I sucked at organic chemistry and I no longer felt like I wanted to be a chemical engineer. But I realized when I looked into myself that I really do believe in the power of empowering people. And I think the way to change the world is to build good relationships with people. And so that's why I chose Sauder, because that's kind of what Sauder is all about. And on top of that, Sauder is among the top 1% of business schools in the world. So that's pretty cool too. On top of that, we do have some very Sauder specific resources that I didn't know about coming into Sauder, but I'm so grateful for them now because not every faculty gets to have them. So, for example, we have the Canaccord Learning Commons, and it's an exclusive library just for Sauder students. Obviously, other people can come in too, but it's a great place to chill out, to study with friends, to book private like study rooms for you and your study groups if you want to really grind out some work, or if you just want to play a bit of piano with some headphones in to just get a break between studying. We also have the student lounge, another great place to become friends. Some, other Sauder students. You can relax, play some pool. You can get some of the free coffee we've got there. And finally, we also have the Sauder undergraduate office called the UGO. In high school, you kind of have the counselor's office where you can go for course registration questions, questions about your grades, your transcripts. That's basically that, but for UBC Sauder. And so not every faculty gets to have amazing resources like this. So I'm super grateful for stuff like this to kind of support me in every step of the way. Next, we'll talk a bit more on the academic side. So for specializations, you basically get to choose, you study in business. But at the end of your second year, after exploring all there is to know about the world of business, kind of get a sample of all the different parts of business, you get to choose which part you love the most and want to learn a bit more about. You can study more than one of those, you can have multiple specializations, but I'm personally just doing one. And on top of your specialization, if that's your ice cream cone, a concentration that we see on the right, it's like a cherry on top. So I'm adding a little cherry on top to my specialization. I'm going to add business analytics. And so there's a lot of different options on what you want to pursue academic wise. If you got more questions, I'll have my contact info at the end of this video. And finally, we also have a really unique opportunity at Sauder, which is the business and computer science combined major. That's a pretty cool, unique program to Sauder. If you want to learn more, again, you can ask me about it. But yeah, definitely give it a try. And finally, we'll talk a bit about class structures at Sauder. So there's a cohort system. So in first year, you'll kind of see the same people. You'll be in one cohort and you'll see the same people in all of your classes mostly. And now that you get a bigger, sense of community, a sense of belonging, which not every faculty has that type of system. And I think it really does help you feel like, you get a community with all the people at Sauder. Next, the classes tend to also be more engagement and participation focused than some other classes are sometimes. For example, instead of having just 100% of your grades are based on your performance in exams, in quizzes, in tests. Instead, maybe 20% of your grade will be based on how engaged are you in class? Do you contribute positively to the classroom environment? And I really love that personally. So that's pretty cool. And aside from that, also when you learn in Sauder, every single thing you learn, I swear, is applicable to the real world, which is why I believe that Sauder education can really be helpful for every single career opportunity. If you want to be a scientist and you work in a lab, you have to decide how much of certain supplies to order. And that is a demand supply problem, which is then a business problem. How do you manage the costs of buying all the supplies? When should you order them, depending on when you run out of them? There's basically businesses everywhere. And so I believe getting an education in Sauder is basically the most all-encompassing, no way it won't be applied type of degree. And so, of course, I didn't cover everything there is to know about Sauder in this video. If you want to learn more, feel free to contact me here. And thank you so much for listening to this introduction to the UBC Sauder School of Business.
The faculty culture of Sauder is honestly just super friendly. It's kind of impossible to not make friends because within the Sauder building, it's just so normal to say, hey, oh, hi, what's your name? Oh, I'm Bethany. Nice to meet you. Like, oh, I like your jacket. Like, it's ridiculously like low barrier to entry type of friend making environment. It's super easy to do that and very normal too. And on top of that, we have a cohort system. So when you're in your first year, um, you basically are given the same classes as a bigger set of people. So you'll kind of have the same classes with kind of the same group of people. So you'll see people that you know every day, and that kind of lets you build a little bit of like a community or like some friend groups within that. And that's super helpful and definitely helps build that super friendly culture because everybody just kind of knows each other in general. And it's super nice to walk into a building and just get to say hey to so many people that you know. So yeah, super friendly. I think for people transitioning into university, I have three main pieces of advice, which is first, detach your self worth from your grades. Most of high school, we're mostly told get good grades, work hard, get an A plus, work hard, get good grades. Like, that's the whole thing. And whether or not you have it, there's definitely always been that message given to us, and it is true. It is a way to measure our effort in the way we prepare for our schoolwork and stuff as a student, but in the end, don't let it consume you, especially in university, as kind of the rulers around you change. Like now, your work as in high school being a 90, in universities maybe a 70. And that can feel super disheartening. But recognizing that your grades are not you, and that honestly, your grades are the least interesting thing about you. Like, I would rather learn about what you love to do in your free time than about your GPA. And that's very true in the world of business, and so I would say detach your self worth from your grades because you're so much cooler than just a number. Um, my next piece of advice would just be to be, compassionate to yourself. Give yourself empathy. It's a hard time of transitioning. It's okay if you make mistakes. This is literally the time to make mistakes. And if you feel like you don't have a handle on things, you think you're like, oh god, like I'm screwing up, it's fine. That is first year. That is first year. And because that's what first year is like, my third piece of advice is to reach out for help when you need it, because there's so many people around you going through the same experiences. It's kind of shocking how great and immediately you can find people who are going through the exact same thing. And you're not alone in that struggle, and neither, like, all the upper years around you definitely know the process. So when you need help, reach out for it. So that's my three pieces of advice.